Building new habits. This feels like one of the hardest things to do, right? You see, every year, millions of people take on the ritual of defining a New Year's resolution. And often people start strong and are on their heroic path to change. But then life happens. Things get in the way. And 2 weeks later, the majority are back to where they started. Now, traditional self-help wisdom often tells you that what you're lacking are willpower and motivation. But I think that what you're missing are just a few tricks. Let me explain. So I'm an interaction designer as well as a retired part-time professional magician. And through making the switch from magic to design, I've learned that these two things are really doing the same thing. You're creating interactive experiences based on principles of storytelling and using behavioral insights to capture and manipulate attention. So just like how a magician uses sleight of hand, designers, we use sleight of mind, and both are based on psychological techniques. Now, what I find interesting and kind of empowering is that you can actually use these techniques in your own lives to trick yourself into building better habits, and they work even if you know the underlying mechanisms behind them. It's pretty simple. There are 3 key steps to doing this. Step 1 is to have a goal. So if you don't have a goal, well then, go get a goal. It's completely up to you to start. This goal will be your source of motivation. If you're stuck, perhaps think of an area of wellness that you want to improve. Step 2 is to understand the habits that will help you to achieve this goal. So if your goal is to lose weight, then developing the habits of exercising and eating a healthier diet will help you to get there. If your goal is to be more environmentally friendly, then developing the habits of recycling and reducing your plastic usage will help you to make an impact. Now, step 3 is the important step that most people miss. Design your environment for success. Allow your motivated self, the one who's ready and wants to change, to design your environment for your less motivated self, so that even on the days that you don't want to go through the motions, it makes sure that you do. Now, this can be a little tricky, because in order to do this, you need to set up interventions that persuade and manipulate your attention just enough to help you to change your behaviors when motivation and willpower aren't enough. Here are a few tricks I learned during my short-lived career as a magician that I think will help with this. The first is misdirection, which is a fancy term for misguiding your attention. In magic, this tool is often used to take your focus away from where you want to look to where we want you to look, and helps to cover up those secret moves that are being performed that creates the effect of an illusion. Misdirection is based on the insight that we humans are really only good at focusing on one thing at a time, and that our perceptual systems can easily be used to misguide us. It follows the simple idea of, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind, and opposite, which is sometimes more powerful, which is, if it's in sight, it's in mind. So, knowing this, how can we use misdirection in our own lives to help us to build healthier habits? As an example, let's take wanting to improve our diets as our goal. If we have a bunch of foods at home that we know that we shouldn't be eating, we can misdirect our attention away from them simply by hiding them inside of some sort of generic opaque food container and placing them behind some healthier snack options in our cupboard or our fridge. Now, simply placing these treats in a container may be enough to add some friction to curb our behaviors, but this intervention is much more effective when there are healthier and more visually attractive food options present to act as that misdirection when we feel the urge to snack. That way, when you open up your cupboard or your fridge, those tasty but unhealthy snacks won't be the first things that you see, and you'll be less likely to impulsively snack on them. Over time, you might even forget that they're there. Now, obviously it's better and probably more efficient to just prevent those snacks from appearing in your house in the first place. Luckily, there's another trick that we can use for that as well. It's choice architecture. Now, choice architecture refers to the way that you can present a set of options to people to influence their decisions. This takes advantage of our default bias, which is our natural tendency to follow things as they are and to accept defaults when making decisions, as well as the framing effect, which describes how people make decisions based on whether the options are presented to them in a positive or a negative way. When a magician asks you to pick a card, chances are there's a bit of choice architecture at play. Sometimes the deck can be stacked in a particular way, or cards can be manipulated and presented to you in a manner that increases the likelihood that you'll pick a certain one. So going back to our example, what if we were to make a list out of all the snacks that we would normally go out to buy, that is, our default options, and look at them through the lens of whether or not they will help us to achieve our goal? If our motivation for wanting to change our diet was to lose weight, or to have more energy throughout the day by eating more natural and nutrient-dense foods instead, then frame and look at each snack option through the lens of whether or not it will help you to achieve that goal. That way, when you go out to buy some snacks, you'll be less likely to follow your defaults, as you've been habitually conditioned to do, and you can instead architect a new set of snack choices based on your goal. Tristan Harris from the Center for Humane Technology, who is coincidentally also a magician turned designer, says that if you control the menu, you control the choices. In other words, if you're the one architecting the choices that are being presented to the person on the other side of an interaction, and if that person on the other side of an interaction is you, what options would you want to give yourself? So now I'll hand it off to you. How might you use misdirection and choice architecture in your own lives to trick yourself? Thank you.